When's the last time that you went dancing? I'm talking about the kind of dancing where you actually get dressed up in your finest. You put on your dancing shoes and you actually go somewhere to dance. I bet it was a long time ago, especially now with COVID, but even before then, people just aren't dancing and moving their bodies the same way they were when I was growing up. I'm a child of the early 1970s, and back then everybody was dancing. I grew up in Sweden, so we were dancing to ABBA and Bonnie M, and my father loved, with a capital L, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That song, Paria, Dancing in September, that was always on. That was like the theme song of my childhood. But you know what? Dancing, in whatever time and whatever place you do it, it's about one main thing. It's about release, letting go, self-expression. And that's so different from how we're living today, isn't it? In my line of work, training global leaders and teams and change makers in the art of leadership speaking, I see a lot of pent-up bodies. In fact, I'd say that full body tension is probably the biggest problem that my students face. And this tension affects everything they do when they are speaking in front of audiences. When they move like robots. When they speak, their faces are in lockdown, so their voices are monotonous. And sometimes when I look them in their eyes, there's nobody home behind them. Tension is the enemy of connection. And some of my students, you can't see who they are at their core, because this is hidden and invisible, entombed by layers of what habit and culture and life, frankly, have brought them. My job is to very gently, very lovingly, and very competently open these layers, releasing their authenticity back out into the world so that they can connect with their audiences, make their messages matter, and show up as the best versions of themselves. My job is to bring them home. Where's home for you? Your vertical center, where you can dance like no one is watching. Let your hair down and just do you. Where you are unshackled from the social and cultural and self-imposed behavioral norms and etiquette which dictate how you should walk, how you should stand, how you should chew, yawn, move, and even breathe. Where is home? Where are you? Who are you with? And what are you doing when you're the best version of yourself? Completely relaxed and free, unbound by the invisible chains which block your light, hide your gifts, and suffocate who you are at the core. Where is home? Knowing where home is about rediscovering who you are at the center of your being. It's about living your truth and being okay with that. It's about taking your armor down and just being in that moment so that both you and your audiences can thrive. If you don't know where home is, no worries. I've got a map to help you find it. A map to finding your way home and to reclaiming your authenticity as a speaker. This map was created from the many forks in the road, twists and turns and dead ends, quite frankly, that I've experienced myself in my own adventures in leadership speaking. And I want to share this map with you here, because now is the right time. COVID-19 has left us unhinged. We are fragmented and out of alignment. Can you feel it? You know, we may have revolutionized how we stay connected with each other by being online, but I feel like we've never been more disconnected. Yeah, because we're squeezing ourselves into these small little digital rectangles where you only see our bobbing heads and moving mouths. Sound familiar? Yeah. And this squeezes and shrinks our authenticity. And it takes the air out of what we say. It flattens our voices, disengages our bodies. And what we have to say in our messages just disappear. But you know what? What we're doing in these little boxes is we're talking about facts and knowledge and information. And for you left-brain people in here, this is probably some sort of a renaissance. But this is unbalanced. If I were to draw what this looks like, we would be looking at a giant head with a tiny little stick figure body that it's floating on top of. These are the proportions that we're dealing with right now. All right? This is what's showing up. And I want to ask you, how can you show up as the best version of yourself when you're only a bobbing head? How can you be authentic and connect to your audiences when this is what's going on in fragmentation? Look, the answer is simple: you can't. Because your body is the key to unlocking everything. What your body does, your authenticity does. What your body does, your presence does. What your body does, your voice does. What your body does, I think you get the picture. Your body is a book, and the stories that it tells reveals who you are at the core. That's why before we even start talking about the map that I've got for you here today, you need to trust that your body's got your back and reconnect with your legs and your feet. Yes, you have legs and feet. And what you can do as a kind of ritual, before you get online, before you speak to any audiences, as a matter of fact, take your shoes and socks off and walk around the space, curling your toes, feeling that ground underneath your feet, and think to yourself, where are my feet? Where are my knees? Where are my legs? And the next level of this is to balance. Here you leave your head brain, and you enter the intelligence of your beautiful body. And you and I both know that when you are balanced, you can do anything. So let's get back to this map. The first stop on it is pretty straightforward. I'm going to call it your mindset. And it's this red dot right here. Mindset. Heartbeat. We feel most alive when our heart beats the quickest, don't we? Think about when your heart beats fast. When you're dancing. When you're in love. When you feel fear. Let's unpack fear related to speaking in front of audiences. Raise your hands if you've ever felt fearful before you speak. Yes, look at everybody. This is universal. Thank you, yes. This is how we operate as people. We are hardwired to deal with fear in one of three ways. We take flight, we fight, or we freeze. And you and I both know that none of those options are appropriate to do when we're speaking in front of audiences. So what do? We have to have a plan. Because if we don't have a plan, fear will manage us instead of us managing fear. And in the context of speaking in front of audiences, fear is a thief. It steals your ability to relax and to enjoy yourself. And it robs your authenticity. So what's the plan? 2 ways that I want to suggest for you to manage fear. Way number 1, prepare very well. Or like Ben Franklin said, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. Yeah. So I'm talking about the high stakes talks, right? The ones that really matter. Where you need to put some sweat equity into the game. Roll up your shirt sleeves, go and rehearse until this content becomes a part of your body. I see a lot of people who rehearse until they kind of get robotic, and then they say, oh, I better stop rehearsing now. But that's a mistake. They need to go the distance. Or like Prince said, my musical idol, the more you learn it, the more it becomes part of who you are. FYI, that's how you know that you've rehearsed enough. So that's where you stop rehearsing, when it just pours out of you. Another way to manage fear is to change the orientation of your internal compass. This is a compass. And most of my students in the early days have a compass needle that points squarely at them. It's the me show. Hey! They use the I and the me and the myself pronoun a lot. But what they don't know yet, because I haven't taught them yet, is that leadership speaking isn't about you. It's about your audience. And that's where your compass needle needs to be pointed. You need to be in authentic service. Yes, because it's not the me show, it's the we show. You are bundling your content into a world that matters to your audience, their needs, their interests. That's what you're populating this bundle with in your content. And you're doing the same with your delivery. How can you show up in presence and use your voice and connect with your body so that your audience gets you? That's authentic service. And something magic happens when you do this. When you're in authentic service to your audience, fear melts away. You know what this feels like when you're giving somebody something from your heart, then you're not in fear. Try that next time. Let's move on. We're going to go to one more stop here on the map. The heart set. Yes, this is that place that you protect and build walls around when you're in fear. This is what you armor up and shut down when you feel afraid and vulnerable. This is normal. We all do this. But the problem is, when you do this related to speaking, when you armor up your heart, we can't see you. And if we can't see you, we can't connect with you. And if you want to know what it feels like to be in the company of someone who has an armored heart, just remember the last time that you felt numb when you were watching somebody talk. Yeah. That feeling of, hey, I'm here, but you don't see me. That person is so disengaged, discombobulated, disconnected. They're in their head, not their body, you see. And by the way, if that person is you, making people feel numb when you're talking to them, my invitation to you is to get out of your head and get into your body. You have a lot of work to do to reconnect. So, more about the heart. I like to say that who you are at the core in your heart is one of the 4 elements. And we all know these elements: earth, water, fire, air. Let me break this down. If you are earth core, if this is what is your dominant element, then you are steady on your feet. You move slowly and with purpose, and you make your audience feel safe. If you are water core, you are liquid and mobile. You move from your hips, and you have a melodic voice that people like to listen to. If you are fire core, you are fierce. You move in angles, and you make people's hearts beat faster. If you are air core, you are light and luminous and ephemeral, and you spend time on your toes, and you make people feel young again. Which element are you? Where is home? Knowing where home is about knowing where you're the best version of yourself, because you're the best version of yourself in your element. But there's a shadow side. I've found that you tend to be the least best version of yourself when you're in the opposite element. So my element is fire. You might have noticed that. And the opposite of fire is what? Water, yeah. I hate being watery. It's like, woo, that's not me. So I have to do a lot to compensate. I warm up. The waters of my body are in my hips, so I'm spending an hour before I speak doing that. I wear blue to try to get flowy with you for balance, because too much of anything isn't good, people. Too much fire, I burn. And if I burn you too. I need water for balance. Too much earth, and you're digging your audience into ditches. You need air. Too much water, and you're drowning in your sorrows. And the audience is drowning with you. You need fire. Too much air, and you wisp away into nothing, into the universe, and nobody remembers you were there. You need earth. So the takeaway is, you are the best version of yourself in your element, but there's a shadow side that you need to nurture. So let's go to our last stop on our map here today, and that's right here. I'm going to call this the gut set. The gut. This is where your intuition lives. Your gut keeps you alive. I like to say to my students and to my 2 teenage children, if it feels right, it is right. But if it feels wrong, it is wrong. Stop, drop, and make a bold decision. What does that look like in real life related to speaking? Well, let's imagine you're talking and you're feeling something is not right. And you're listening to that internal conversation, that chatter. And you're feeling like you're talking too fast. Stop. Take a drink of water if there's something nearby. As you're drinking, you're dropping what's not working. And you're doing the opposite, right? Making a bold decision is about doing the opposite, 180 degrees different from what you were doing. The opposite of speaking fast is speaking slow. So take that water, put it down, and the next time your mouth opens, you speak slowly. I know this sounds easy, but it's kind of hard. But when you do it, you add it to your repertoire. You become ninja-level aware of this conversation in your gut, and it keeps you authentic. It keeps you in the moment. You know what? About 16 minutes ago, I was talking about how we're not dancing anymore as a culture. You remember that part? Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like these dots are a little mobile. There's something dancey about them. And I think it's time to connect the dots. Let me draw the full picture. You begin with your feet, finding balance, getting grounded, connecting to your legs. Then you go to your head, where your mindset lives. 2 different ways to manage fear. Then you go to your heart, where your true nature lives, but mind your shadow. Next, you get to your gut. Always trust your gut, it keeps you alive. And look, it's a human. It's you. Welcome home. This is your map, and you already own it. But let me tell you this another way. Under the surface, I see you glow. I know that you're in there. My invitation to you is to come dancing, to use the map of your own body to reclaim your authenticity. Dare to be remarkable. Dare to be seen. Because when we really see you, we connect with you. Thank you.